Today is episode 45 with Dr. B.
Welcome to the Harness Your ADHD Power podcast. If you're looking for a fresh perspective and actionable steps on hot topics from focus to follow through to self-management and more, you are in the right place. Welcome your host, innovative educator, coach, and psychotherapist, Dr. B.
Hey, DDers, I'm so glad that you could join me for today's podcast episode. I've talked a lot about the challenges of adult life with ADHD, including executive function deficits, and I've offered you lots of action steps to take. I've also talked about you as the human being and not the human doing. And I got to thinking that I haven't talked about strengths, or rather your strengths. I remember this information was really important to me years ago, and perhaps it'll be important for you as well. Years ago, I took the free character strengths test on the VIA Institute on Character website. That's a mouthful. The link to access their free assessment is going to be in today's show notes, so don't worry about that. I'm also planning on doing a live Q&A in the community group about the results of your assessments and how to leverage your strengths. So if you're not already a member of that community, I'd love it for you to join us for that discussion, and the link for that community group is also in today's show notes. There are 24 strengths that this test evaluates, and VIA ranks them for you in their free report. They also have paid reports that go into more depth about your strengths, if that's of interest to you. You'll see all that information on their website. I'm going to approach today's topic of what's right with you a little differently. In the strengths assessment, there are 6 core categories: wisdom and knowledge, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. And then various subcategories within each of those core groups. I'm going to share a short little story illustrating each of the 6 core categories, including some background information about each of them and some action steps that you can take if you relate to that story and that core category, followed up, of course, with a favorite quote of mine, as always. First, a little bit about what's right with you. Each of you came to this lifetime with gifts and strengths. Whether you appreciate or value your gifts and your strengths is a totally different issue. However, you have gifts and you have strengths. That said, accepting what your gifts and strengths are and working with them seems like the best road to personal happiness and success, at least to me. And I don't mean accepting them with resignation or resentment. Look at your gifts and strengths with a sense of admiration and start wondering where and how you can utilize them, at least for the time being. Stop longing for what you don't have and start appreciating what you do have. It's the only way that I know of that you're going to be able to shift your mindset so that you can truly start wondering where and how you can best utilize them. So by taking this free assessment, you're going to learn what your strengths are. Things that you're already good at, that you have an easy time doing. In fact, you might say that they come naturally to you, which is the whole point. And once you know what your strengths are, you're going to be able to think of how you can use them to help you with some of the day-to-day challenges that you're facing. Whether it's your organizing, prioritizing, decision-making, focusing, following through, self-management, relationship with time, transitions, planning, scheduling, and so on. What's really important here, I think, is that when you're tackling those day-to-day challenges and you feel like you have nothing going for you, that everything about organizing or prioritizing is a challenge. That may not be the case if you can look at it through the lens of your strengths. Hopefully you'll understand what I mean as we go on today. A quick little example is that you might not have a sense of urgency in your day-to-day tasks, and hence you're late with assignments or other things, which is a real drag. Yet you can clearly understand the sense of urgency through the lens of your strength of bravery. When there's a threat and you act right away and you take care of the threat, either to yourself or to others, you just do it because people with this strength act this way. Another quick little example might be you not knowing what to do or where to start on a project by yourself. Yet through the lens of your strength of teamwork, you work well as a member of a team, you can see what's yours to do, and you get it done. Again, you just do it because people with this strength act this way. For years, I've approached my challenges from the perspective of getting stronger, where I'm already strong, because I'm more motivated to do that. And then my strengths end up helping the weaker parts of me to get stronger much faster, because I'm not focused on all my weaknesses and getting dragged down by them. In fact, I feel a sense of success and achievement by working to strengthen my existing strengths, and then I'm leveraging them to my advantage. This always just seemed like the logical way to go about things, because working on what I'm challenged by is slow and frustrating, even when I'm loving and patient with myself. I've recently come to realize that I've spent a lot of my lifetime learning from some great teachers, as well as doing my own self-study. And I've learned a lot about assessments and tools and way of thinking about my life challenges or working with my mind that have allowed me to move forward and achieve goals that I never thought would be possible for me to achieve, even though I really, really wanted to achieve them. My training in hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic psychology, craniosacral therapy, somato-emotional release work, physical fitness training, homeopathy, traditional Chinese medicine, Native American spiritual practices, and the time that I spent working in law firms and medical offices while I was pursuing my somewhat non-traditional education and licensure, all coming together now as part of what I'm bringing to my students in the Adventures in Achievement program. I know just how complex the challenges are that I've faced with my own life journey, and from those of you that I've worked with, I know your challenges have been equally complex. I've needed the non-judgmental, loving, and safe support of others to keep going and get to where it is that I need to go for my own healing. And I love that I get to provide that for others now, no matter where you all are located in the world. I've learned that everything you or I want or need in life is going to cost us in time, effort, and energy. And that's just what it takes to get there. You can write down your goals and say what you want. And if you're not willing to commit to give whatever it's going to take to achieve your goals, then they just aren't going to happen for you. You'll either have to downsize your goals or upgrade your commitment to do whatever it is that it's going to take. Because there's no discount on life, not the life that any of us want. We have to invest fully. You know, in previous episodes, I've talked about the neurological level model of Robert Dilts: environment, behaviors, capabilities, beliefs and values, identity, and spirit. I've also mentioned that I've gained a lot by starting with spirit and allowing spirit to flow into everything. What I've learned recently is just how critical my environment is to my overall health. I've had some health challenges recently that just weren't resolving. And as the curious and determined person that I am, I've changed my foods, my lifestyle, my shampoos, makeup, cleaning products. I've checked my water and my air conditioning and heating systems. I've removed excess indoor plants because of the soil. And yet I missed something very, very important that was right there all the time. I just had to look up. There was a leak in one of my skylights, and that created a mold problem. Mold kept being detected as a health issue for me, and I had thoroughly explored the usual suspects, such as the shower, the bathroom, the closets, upholstered furniture, heating, air conditioning ducts, and they'd all been ruled out. They were clean. They were fine. However, the leaky skylight and the only rug in my entire space that hadn't been professionally cleaned in years kept exposing me to the mold spores every day that I worked in that room. I tell you this story because some of the symptoms of mold exposure are the same as those of ADHD and executive function deficits. And I encourage you to look around in your own environment and see if you have anything around you on a daily basis that could be contributing to you not feeling your best and making your ADHD or your executive function abilities worse. Some scary symptoms of mold infection or mold toxicity are psychological distress like anxiety or depression, exhaustion, changes in touch or sensation, muscle weakness, aches and pains, vertigo, coordination problems, sinusitis, strange rashes and huge hives, mental fog, breathing problems, hair loss, sore throat, cold and flu symptoms, headaches, memory loss, and digestive issues. I'm really looking forward to how I'm going to be feeling in the next week or two now that the rug is out for cleaning and the skylight and the surrounding wood areas are scheduled for repair really soon. So back to the original question about how can you leverage your strengths once you know what they are to help you create a happier and a more productive and a more successful life for yourself. You're going to need to choose one area to focus on first and make the amount of that area small enough to be achievable by you. For example, if your highest rated category of strengths is wisdom and knowledge, and your highest within that core category is creativity, perhaps look at how you could leverage your creativity, which is thinking of new and novel and productive ways to do things, and apply that to the challenges in your life. What are some alternative ways to view the challenge, to approach working with it, and even utilize aspects of it in your life? You might be pleasantly surprised at what your creativity can offer you if you apply it in new ways. And once you know what your strengths are, if you find yourself ignoring them and slipping back into old patterns or ways of living your life, pay attention to whatever it is that's causing you to slip and not sustain the new ways. Don't just let it be. Tackle it and clear away whatever's in the way rather than letting your behaviors or your thinking deteriorate. We're getting closer to today's 6 little short stories, background information, action steps, and a favorite quote of mine. So let's keep going. I want you to remember that you are not what you do or you don't do, that you're more than that we are not defective or less than as people, as human beings. We're just wired differently. And the difference doesn't have to be a limitation once you know what you need for your own success. Remember, I wasn't born knowing all of these systems and structures and methods that I needed to put in place to move myself from stuck to unstoppable, and neither were you. However, so long as you're teachable and willing to be a student of your own life, you can learn just like I did. It's almost story time, but first, you need a win. You need to remember and acknowledge and celebrate at least one thing that's good about you or has gone right for you today. Just one thing. Perhaps you take the strengths assessment test today after you listen to this episode. That's a win. Or maybe use the information that you get about your strengths to start making some changes in your life. That's certainly a win. Or perhaps you tell a few friends about the strengths assessment and you encourage them to take it and you all work on leveraging your strengths together. That is definitely a win. Whatever you choose, it's up to you. However, I want you to choose something right now and I want you to celebrate it, either aloud or to yourself. I want you to have a win. And I want you to acknowledge that at least one thing has gone right today in your day is right about you. And that even if you're feeling defeated because you have so far to go and you just don't know if you can make it or not, those feelings don't take away from the fact that at least one thing has gone right today or is right with you. You are a precious child of this universe, and you are called a human being, not a human doing, for good reason. You don't have to earn your value because you were born with it. Your value comes from who you are, not from what you do. Got it? I hope so, because you're going to keep hearing me say it, because it's so important to your self-esteem and to your quality of life. And I want you to remember that this is a process. So please, don't let yourself off the hook here with taking action once, not getting the results you hoped for, and stopping there. Seriously? Did you learn how to do anything significant or important in your life with just one attempt? I know that I didn't, so keep going. You're learning to do, not just standing up and doing, like you've known how to do it your whole life. Let's get real here. In this episode, I'm going to be taking a look at the VIA classification of strengths, and I'm going to be helping you to see what's right with you, so you can leverage that for a happier and a more productive life. How much time do we have? Not much. So let's get to it.
This podcast is sponsored by Pure Potential with Dr. B. You can head over to drbarbaracohen.com and find the podcast show notes, great free content from Dr. B, plus programs and services. That's drbarbaracohen.com.
Now back to being an adult with ADHD in today's world. I'm going to use myself as the story example for each of these stories today. So transitioning to my first story, which is about wisdom and knowledge, the cognitive strengths that entail the acquisition and the use of knowledge. For as long as I can remember, I felt like I was going to be a student for life. I love learning about so many different things and integrating everything that I learn into something that's useful in my life. Perhaps this describes you too. To me, this core category of strengths has absolutely nothing to do with IQ or being a measurement of how successful someone with ADHD is going to be or isn't going to be. I say that because if there are executive function skills that are missing, or many that are weak in the areas of being able to plan or schedule or initiate on day-to-day tasks or important projects without having delays or procrastination, then all the wisdom and the knowledge in the world isn't going to save you. For years, I've been unable to take my 30 years of wisdom and knowledge about what has helped me and many other adults that I've worked with to be successful and share it more broadly. I know that I rate high in this category and all the subcategories. However, it's been the executive function skills that I was missing that have been stopping me. And it's only when I learned them that things started to change for me, and I could actually put my wisdom and my knowledge to work in the greater world at large. Some background facts about wisdom and knowledge, which is cognitive strengths that entail the acquisition and the use of knowledge. There's creativity, which is thinking in new and novel and productive ways of doing things. This is really common in the adults that I've worked with. There's curiosity, which is taking an interest in something for its own sake. There's judgment, which is thinking something through and examining something from all different sides. There's love of learning, to master new skills and topics or knowledge just because, which is also very common in the adults I've worked with. And there's perspective, which is looking at the world in ways that make sense, at least to us. If you relate to my story about wisdom and knowledge, your action steps might be the following. Focus on what your subcategory strengths are and think about how you can utilize them to your benefit. Follow through on actually utilizing them in the ways that you've considered and see if your life gets any easier, or if you're able to do things more quickly or gain more pleasure from what it is that you're doing. And for self-management, you want to manage your state or your mindset to appreciate yourself for all of these amazing strengths that you have and allow yourself to be proud to be you and excited about what it is that you're going to choose to do as a result of knowing about all your strengths. Transitioning to my second story, which is about courage, the emotional strengths that involve the exercise of will to accomplish goals in the face of opposition, whether it's external or internal. I feel that my strengths in this category developed much later in my life. I've certainly persevered for most of my life, doing whatever I had to do to finally complete my undergraduate degree and move on to my master's and then to my doctorate degree. There were many reasons why it took almost 15 years for me to finish a 4-year undergraduate degree. The point is, I stayed with it and finished so that I could continue my higher education levels. To me, this core category of strengths is about so many different things. It's about standing for what you believe and being honest about your truth, the truth about who you are. It seems like it's taken a long time to get to the place in my life where I'm comfortable enough in my own skin to be a little bit more of the full expression of myself and of courage. I was taught years ago that modeling behaviors is really important so that others can follow someone's lead. I've certainly followed the lead of those that I admire, and I hope that my steps of courage are going to help you to be more courageous in your own life. Some background facts about courage. Again, it's the emotional strengths that involve the exercise of will to accomplish goals in the face of opposition, whether it's external or internal. There's bravery, which is not running away but standing your ground for what's right. There's perseverance, which is finishing up what one starts, persisting in spite of the obstacles. There's honesty, which is speaking one's truth and taking responsibility for your feelings and your actions. And then there's zest, which is living life as an adventure, not doing things halfway or half-heartedly. If you relate to my story about courage, your action steps might be focus on where you are currently courageous and where you aren't courageous, and see if you can get to why you lack courage in certain situations in your life or certain areas of your life. Follow through on stepping up more often and living in your integrity and your truth. And with self-management, you need to look at your fears or concerns about living with courage and doing whatever your personal work is around these concerns or the fears that you have. Transitioning to my third story, which is about humanity, the interpersonal strengths that involve tending and befriending others. I feel that my strengths in this category also developed later in my life. My earlier years were more about solitude, and then I swung into codependency. I feel that I finally found the middle path, and I don't lose myself in relationships. I know I was rather naive when I was younger, and the motives of others, they just weren't as clear to me as they are now. To me, this core category of strengths is about humanity to self as well as to others, and I think that's what I needed to learn all along. I learned that when I'm taking care of myself and my needs, I'm full, and I can be there for others in the fullness that I've always wanted to be. Some background facts about humanity, which again is the interpersonal strengths that involve tending and befriending others. There's love, which is valuing close relations with others, where sharing and caring are reciprocated. There's kindness, which is helping others with favors or good deeds. And there's social intelligence, knowing what to do to fit in different kind of social situations. So if you related to my story about humanity, your action steps might be focus on what you need to develop in yourself to tend to the needs of others without losing yourself in the process. Follow through on developing yourself so you can be there for others without losing yourself. Self-management of your feelings about being close to others and sharing and caring in reciprocity. Because there are a lot of people that have issues around being close to others in this very more intimate kind of way. Transitioning to my fourth story, which is about justice, the civic strengths that underlie healthy community life. For as long as I can remember, I fought for the underdog and what I feel is right or just in the world. I'm bothered by the injustice that I perceive around me because justice just seems so logical and right. To me, this core category of strengths is about us as human beings, not human doings, and that our value is a given. I think it's also about my need to make sure that no one's left behind who wants to advance themselves, that we all have the right to become the expression of the strengths and the gifts that we were born with, and that can contribute to the betterment of life for all of us. Some background facts about justice, which again is civic strengths that underlie healthy community life. There's teamwork, which is working well as a team member and doing one's share. There's fairness, which is treating all people according to the notions of fairness and justice. And there's leadership, which is organizing group activities and seeing that they actually happen. If you relate to my story about justice, your action steps might be focus on what you believe about justice and its subcategories. Follow through on living your life according to the values and the principles that you want to uphold. Self-management of your feelings about the injustice in the world and what you can or can't do to make a difference and where. Transitioning to my fifth story, which is about temperance, the strengths that protect against excess. Earlier in my life, I had problems with excess. I had a lot of problems there. It seemed that there was never enough of anything. I always felt the need to do more, be more, and I wasn't all that disciplined. To me, this core category of strengths is about restraint from self-judgment in favor of self-forgiveness, about regulating myself in place of doing whatever I feel like when I feel like it, and not with positive intentions at all. I think it's also about my need to master myself so that I can live as a better person in the world and in my relationships with others. Some background facts about temperance. Again, strengths that protect against excess. There's forgiveness, accepting the shortcomings of others and yourself. There's humility, letting one's accomplishments speak for themselves. There's prudence, being careful about one's choices and not saying or doing things that one might later feel regret about. And then there's self-regulation, controlling one's emotions, being disciplined and regulating what one feels and what one does. If you related to my story about temperance, your action steps might be to focus on where you're pulled into excess in your life and see if you can determine what that's doing for you. And then follow through on what you learn from becoming more self-aware and utilize those insights for self-betterment. With self-management of any of the feelings that you might have about scarcity, because they might be what's driving the need for excess. Transitioning to my sixth story, which is about transcendence, the strengths that forge connections to the larger universe and provide meaning. I love this strength and its connection to my spiritual life, to my intuition. To me, this strength is what connects us all to one another, and it reminds me that I'm not alone in my challenges, my gifts, or my joys. I feel this strength is connected to my strengths of wisdom and knowledge. It's how I'm driven to continue to seek insights and learn more about the bigger world and what connects us all at a much higher or deeper level. Some background facts about transcendence, which again is strengths that forge connections to the larger universe and provide meaning. There's appreciation of beauty and excellence, noticing and appreciating beauty, excellence, and skilled performance in various domains of life. There's gratitude, to be aware of and thankful for the good things that happen. There's hope, expecting the best in the future and then working to achieve it. There's humor, bringing smiles to other people and seeing the lighter side of life. And spirituality, having beliefs about the meaning of life that shape your conduct and provide comfort. If you relate to my story about transcendence, your action steps might be to focus on cultivating your gratitude for all that you are, for those in your life, and for the expression of excellence wherever you experience it, to follow through on bringing hope into the world wherever you can, and shed some light into the darkness of so many, and self-management of your feelings to stay in balance and harmony within yourself. A favorite quote of mine, Eleanor Roosevelt said, "You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I have lived through this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along. You must do the thing that you think you cannot do." The question I have for you at this point of our journey together is, can you go to the mirror and look your fears in the face and do what you think you cannot do? I hope so, because it's totally worth it. That's about it for today's episode on strengths. I hope that you are able to hear yourself in many of my examples and that you're excited to start exploring how you can enjoy your strengths and what's right with you. In fact, I'd love to hear what you've discovered about your strengths and how you're benefiting from this knowledge. It means a lot to me to know that your life is getting a little bit better every time we get together. And I do hope that you'll take some of the action steps that I've suggested, because for things to change, you've got to change. And that means taking action, like checking out the episode links so you can benefit from all the resources I continue to create for you in addition to this podcast show. Of course, if that's of interest to you. And remember, there's a PDF transcription of this episode in the resources. Plus, I'd love to get to know you in the community group that I created on Facebook and interact with you there when I go live. If you benefited from today's episode, take action now and share this show with your friends and family. Perhaps rate the show, or even write up an honest review of this show or this episode. Whatever you're willing to take action on today is going to ripple out into the world and have an impact on the course of your life, as well as that of others that you may never even know about. And if you don't want to have to remember to look for new episodes, just subscribe, and the newest episode will be in your feed by 1 a.m. Pacific time on Mondays and Thursdays. So thanks for listening. Until the next time, bye for now.
Thanks for your undivided attention. If you're hungry to make positive changes in your life, head over to drbarbaracohen.com and see how Dr. B can help you today. Whether you love making changes with one-to-one attention and community support, or on your own with self-study, or could benefit from coaching or psychotherapy, you'll find all the information right there at drbarbaracohen.com.